Radio Influence. Podcasting redefined. You are sitting ringside with David Penzer on Radio Influence.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of City Ringside. My name is David Penzer. We are so happy, as always, that you are here to listen to this thing they call a podcast. And look, I know I work for the company, and I'd be promoting the hell out of this if I didn't, because I think it's a great company, and I think it's an exciting time in pro wrestling. And we'll be talking to Executive Vice President of Impact Wrestling, Scott D'Amore, in just a few minutes for a really interesting conversation. It's always great to get him on. Known him for 30 plus years, and we have great chemistry, and there's no question off limits. So I want to thank him for jumping on. But this coming Sunday, April 25th on pay-per-view, it is Rebellion, Impact Wrestling, and history will be made because and we'll ask Scott about this, and Tony Khan mentioned it in the press conference. Somebody's leaving with all the gold. I mean, somebody's going to show up on I guess the next show would be, since we're on Thursdays, Impact is on Thursdays, I guess the next show would be AEW Dynamite. Somebody's going to show up on Dynamite with all the championships. And, whether that's Kenny Omega or whether that's Rich Swann, that we're going to find out. But it's not like we're doing this, they've made it clear there's not stopping the match. They're not doing a double count out. Somebody has to win this match. Somebody has to leave with all the gold. So it will be interesting, and it is historic, and I'm honored and excited to be a part of it. Great undercard. The Good Brothers against Finjuice. X Division title, Ace Austin, TJP, and Josh Alexander. Geez, any of those three against each other is just, I was saying on Twitter this past week, man, those three guys are just incredible athletes. Sami Callihan versus Trey Miguel in the last man standing match. Matt Cardona versus Brian Myers. Violent by Design versus Sabin Storm, Willie Mack, and Eddie Edwards. And, of course, the main event, title versus title. Kenny Omega with Don Callis, the invisible hand, against Rich Swann. Somebody's leaving with all the gold. I am excited, and I hope you are too. We've been teasing Mark Marrow, Johnny B. Bad, on this podcast, and due to circumstances that have nothing to do with Mark Marrow, we've had to push him back. So looking forward next week to having Mark Marrow, and I've been looking forward to talking to him for a couple of weeks, and sometimes life gets in the way, and you can't control things, but we look forward to having him on next week and finally make this happen, and that should be fun. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at David Penzer. No politics. We talk wrestling. We talk baseball. We talk fantasy football, although it's a little early to talk that. We talk rock and roll music, but no politics, and have a good time on Twitter. So join me at David Penzer, all one word. If you do not subscribe to this podcast, be sure to do so. If you could leave a review, be sure to do that, and spread the word if you like what you're hearing. Not a lot of appearances by the Executive Vice President of Impact Wrestling leading up to this historic evening, and this is one of them. And I'm honored to be able to introduce to you right now, ladies and gentlemen, longtime friend. He is my boss. I was his boss once, a long time ago. We talked about that in an old episode of City Ringside, but he is my boss, the Executive Vice President of Impact Wrestling, Scott D'Amore. Welcome to City Ringside. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have this week on City Ringside, or should I say Penzer Stupid Podcast, the Executive Vice President of Impact Wrestling, my friend of 30 plus years, Scott D'Amore, and I guess my boss too. So I guess I better behave myself. And of course, we are here to, as we discussed earlier, to talk about this Sunday night, April 25th on pay-per-view. It's going to be Rebellion, title versus title. AEW champion Kenny Omega versus Impact World Champion Rich Swann. And Scott, according to everything that you and Tony have said, somebody's walking out with that belt, with both belts, correct?
That's the deal, David. It's the papers have been signed. It's been set. You know, in wrestling, so many times people have thrown out champion versus champion matches, and being here in Ontario, Canada, you know, the tiny promotion, Maple Leaf Wrestling, was the home to so many of them. You get to see Vern Gagne versus Bruno Sammartino, or Bob Backlund versus Ric Flair, and it always ended in some type of non-finish. But this Sunday, April 25th, Rebellion, Kenny Omega, the AEW champion, and Rich Swann, the Impact Unified World Champion, they both walk in and champion, and only one of them is walking out that way.
Yeah, that's huge. I have to say the fan in me, the mark in me, as they like to say these days, is in high gear for this one. Can't wait to see it, and honored to be a part of it, albeit a small part. Before we go talk about that match and even the pay-per-view, how would you, if you had to give a state of Impact Wrestling as we go into Rebellion, what would it be? How are things going as far as your plans have been? And what would you say the state of Impact is as we speak?
I mean, I have to say, coming out of probably the craziest, most trying year for the entire planet, you know, the 2020 and early 2021 has been, I think, you know, we're in a pretty good spot, man. We've managed to go out there and do some pretty cool things as far as you know, we've gone out there, we found a way to be able to continue to safely deliver content and have wrestling in this pandemic world. And, you know, for the longest time, it was two billionaires and us that were out there doing it. And I think we put out some great stuff. And if you look at what we were able to do last year with the lead up to Slammiversary and get the wrestling world buzzing and really capture their attention, I think that was a huge game changer for us. And that was kind of like our coming out party in a lot of ways from where we had been in early, 2018, right as me and Don came in and Anthem was still just getting their feet wet in ownership. And I think the AEW stuff has been pretty unprecedented. Think about it. Don Callis uttered the words Access TV on TNT during Dynamite, and you've seen talent back and forth. And I think it's this title versus title match here this Sunday is the next step in that. Let's do things that are cool and different and make people just go,
Well, I was going to ask you about it later, but since you brought it up, Slammiversary, I don't want to get ahead of Rebellion, but it's interesting. One of those billionaires just gave you another opportunity to create some buzz by repeating the same scenario he did last year. So what were your thoughts when you heard that? Did your mind start going a mile a minute?
Well, I mean, the one thing is, I'm kind of curious about the fact that people seem to be shocked that this happened. If you look at it historically, this is exactly what happens. They do WrestleMania, they get through that, and then they make some adjustments to their talent roster. But certainly, as I was sitting, working away from my patio table, since we're all in a pretty much work-at-home situation still most days in this world, my phone started lighting up. I looked at stuff. There was definitely some talents there that I could see gracing an Impact Wrestling ring. It's always unfortunate when any talent gets let go. That's one of the unfortunate sides of the business. That's a part of any business. And to me, is like so many of the people did last year, there's a great opportunity for these people to take this hiccup, this setback, and turn it into something cool and someone that can propel them forward. So I think it's going to be an interesting time over the next 90 days, and let's see where everybody lands in July.
Yeah, like I said, the mark in me is going crazy. This last year has been a dream for surprises and not having any clue where things are headed. Just when you think, like Piper used to say, just when you think you have all the answers, we change the questions. You've been in the business 30 plus years. I've been around it just as long. God, that's a long time, Scott. This has always been a business that you judge what's working and what's not working by the crowd reactions. And they tell you basically by either purchasing tickets or, I guess to a lesser extent, watching the television. But, when they purchase the tickets and they cheer for who they like and they boo for who they don't, sometimes organically plans could change. How difficult has that been not having that? And how have you been able to work around it?
Well, it's certainly been a huge change and very difficult for the adjustment, especially for some of the older guys. Like, I know the first time that I went out there And thankfully, I don't have to wrestle. Thankfully for me, and thankfully for the eyes of everybody watching the pod. But just going out there and having to do in-ring promos and interactions, it's just the cadence and everything seems so much different with that silence. And that really is something difficult to adjust to. I'll say this crop and generation of talent was probably better prepared for it than previous ones. Because when I broke in, that's all we were taught was listen to the crowd. And you'd sit there as a young wrestler trying to learn how to feel the crowd and hear the crowd. Not that this generation doesn't, certainly, but they've also been brought up in so much of a TV and a programmed environment where they're more kind of game planning more than we were. Whereas we were on the cuff, catch as catch can, ad lib type stuff. This talent spends a lot more time preparing and plotting and strategizing and formatting and everything else than we ever did.
Sure.
So I think they've done an amazing job across the industry, not just in our roster, but across the industry in being able to adjust to not having that fans. And I tip my hat to every talent that's went out there because, one of the reasons why we all do this is for that rush you get from the crowd. And these performers, these men and women have gone out there and continued to put on great performances and done it without that instant gratification that we all love so much. So it's been interesting. It's had some upsides. It's had some difficulties, but overall it's like Eric Young, I think, was the first one to say it. Like, we are living in an unprecedented time. No time in history have wrestlers ever went out there and wrestled for no people in the building. So it's been an interesting experience, been one that we'll talk about, I think, everybody involved for the rest of their lives. And it has forced us to go out there and look and see, what type of traction is there on social media? What type of ratings, fluctuation has there been up and down, minute by minute, week to week? What type of content is connecting when you post videos and everything else, whether it be on Impact Plus, whether it be on socials, whether it be on YouTube, whatever it be? Which ones are people really gravitating to and watching? So, it's like everything else, David. I know you're a baseball fan. I've got a baseball game here on in the background as we talk. I've got my beloved Blue Jays, and you think about sabermetrics, and you look at it, all the things across all sports, how much statistics and analytics now are so much more important, and it's similar in some ways in wrestling as far as for how we gauge that connection right now. Without a building full of people to say, hey, that worked or didn't work, we look for all those other signs, and I think that's thankfully in 2020, 2021, we have some tools that we never had in the past to kind of gauge that. And we just do our best to adjust and learn as we go.
I can't agree with you more. Hey, yeah, I've been telling Tracy Brooks on social media for like 2+ years that the Blue Jays are going to be good. And I think either this year or next year, they have a chance to make a run because they just loaded up on young talent and then brought in some pitching. And not to get off topic, but I think even though they're our rival in the American League East for the Rays, I kind of get excited when I see a bunch of young guys playing like that because it sort of reminds me of our team. So good luck on the season, man.
Thanks, man. I got to say, you were one of the first ones on Twitter. I saw you. You sent it out to Tracy, and you were the ones last year that said, like, don't early on. This team's going to be pretty darn good. Like, don't count them out. And you're ahead of the curve on that. And knock on wood, I don't know if they fully found themselves yet, but there, as you said, there's a lot of raw talent there.
For sure. Hey, I know that it's hard to predict because this thing changes every day. I mean, I got the J&J vaccine a couple weeks ago. Now nobody could get it. Who knows when they're going to be able to get it. So this is changing every day. It's unheard of and pretty much in our time. But any game plan do you guys think about or talk about at all, getting in front of 10 people, 100 people, 50 people? Or is that just something you're going to wait and see how things run its course?
I mean, certainly it's been, we all want to, as much as we want to stay safe, and obviously that's the most important thing, we want to get back out there in front of live audiences. And that's been something that's been an ongoing topic through the entire period here. I know we did our first, adventure in the empty studio world in April of last year, so just about a year ago here. And we were thinking at the time, naively, that we might have people at Slammiversary. then it was like, oh, you know what? Well, we might have people at Bound for Glory. It's been a constant adjustment. And one of the things that we feel strongly about, you know, both Impact and company-wide at Anthem is let's be extremely cautious with this. So we'll continue to monitor things. We'll continue to adjust as we go. We'll continue to look at opportunities to get back in front of people. But we'd rather be a day late on that one than a day early. So we will continue to monitor. We'll continue to think on it. Like I could sit here and say, hey, it'd be great if we were in front of a live audience, you know, for the fall. But I hope we would be. But I mean, who knows? I have no ability to say when that'll going to happen. We'll just monitor it and keep doing our best in the meantime. And then when we can safely and effectively get back out in front of live crowds, we'll be there.
And I look forward to it. Speaking of Anthem corporate, as you did, you recently acquired, Invicta, MMA company, all women MMA company. And I believe in the press release it says that you plan on having them on Access TV. What does that acquisition mean to Anthem? What does it mean to Access? And does it mean anything to Impact as far as cross promotion, or are we going to run it as two different mediums?
Sure. And I mean, look, the acquisition of Invicta FC is huge for us. It's a great brand. It's a great company. It's a company that was out there at the forefront of promoting female MMA artists, female fighters, at a time when there was a lot of people that were against it. You know, Shannon went out there and she got this going. This is her passion project. She's built this from the ground up. And for us, to get a smart, sharp, passionate woman like her and get Invicta here under the Anthem umbrella and working with us, well, then it's great programming for Access TV. I mean, David, I know you're a guy even predating your involvement with us. I remember you saying you watch Access all the time. And what does Access have? It has a ton of great music content. It has professional wrestling, and it has MMA. So to have our own MMA company and an amazing one like Invicta as part of the family is fantastic. I think it's going to be great for Access, but it'll also be great for our ability to help Invicta grow and do some of the things we've done with Impact Wrestling and growing our social media and our digital presence, and do that with Invicta and work with a great group there at Invicta to really, you know, they've done so much on so limited resources. And they've gone out there and just done this amazing thing in the MMA industry. And we're all excited to have them as part of the family, to work side by side with them. I'm looking forward. I'll be there on site on May 21st, I think it is, in Kansas City there. And just can't wait to see everything they have going on and be part of it. And, you know, the great thing about being under the Anthem umbrella, if there's something that we can do to help them, we'll be there. If there's something they can do to help us, they'll be there. And that's Anthem's been a saving grace for Impact now for many years. I mean, it really did lift it out of the ashes, and not that Invicta was there, but Anthem is going to be able to lift Invicta to bigger and newer and higher heights.
May 21st. That's my birthday. Just a little hint. If you need any company on that trip, I want to celebrate my birthday. It'd be cool to see. But hey, yeah, you're right. I am a huge fan.
Hey, wouldn't taking you somewhere else, isn't that a gift to your wife Lisa more so than you?
It's a gift to both of us for sure. But you said May 21st is my birthday. Going to be 55. So it's been a long run. You mentioned Access. Yeah, like I think I've mentioned this before, but like 2/3 of what's on my DVR are concerts from Access TV. I mean, I tape every single one because I'm a huge live music fan. So do you guys do any original content, or do you guys just license out other content? I was just curious as far as Access and music goes, like live from Daryl's house from Hall & Oates. Do you guys actually produce that in-house, or you guys have a third party that goes out and then you get it from them? I'm just curious on a personal level, really.
It's a combination of both. There's products that we license. There's also products that we are directly hands-on producing, you know. And we have a great team at Access, you know. Frank Tyson, who's been a huge addition to the Anthem family, who was a Spike TV guy back in the Impact days there. With him coming over and him running the network and the team that he has over there with him and programming and everything else. I mean, they have creative people there. And, there's there's something else. There's access, the pandemic, like everybody else, the ability to go out and do live concerts and do all other kinds of programming, it's been hindered greatly. So there's some great people there that are chomping at the bit to get back out there and do more and more. And, let's hope that 2021 gives us the opportunity to do that. And until then, I mean, hats off, because I know, Dave, you watch a lot of Access TV. I do as much as I can when I'm in the U.S. I even try to pick hotels that have Access TV on them so that I can stay up to date. And, look, I think they've done an amazing job of continuing to program some interesting, fun television in the most trying of times.
Sure, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, I am a big. I guess the theme of this discussion is what a mark I am this year, and I am a huge mark for Access. I've been way before I had any idea that pro wrestling would be on it. Great. For those of you who don't know and just watch Impact Wrestling, if you're a concert, country, or classic rock aficionado, be sure to check out their programming, because it's probably, I'd say, 65-70% live music or music-related shows. So it's awesome, if not more than that. Hey, you've always been a proponent, AAA, for example, New Japan early on, and then Noah, of working with other promotions. Why is that something that you find appealing, and what do you think the wrestling fan benefits from that?
Well, I think because, David, you've got a year or two on me, and you got to see a great part of wrestling's history where talent moved around a lot from place to place. Yeah. That was still somewhat isolated. By the time I came around, I got just a very, very tail end of that, and I grew up in a very, Titan WWF machine up here in Detroit and in Ontario, Canada. And, we got our glimpses of the NWA here and there and everything else. But it's like everything existed in a bubble. Like they didn't even acknowledge that the other existed. And It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, especially in a digital age that we live in now, where people, know all this stuff. And I mean, if you're watching one product, you're probably watching others. It excites fans to get to see companies, interact, and you get to do matchups that you otherwise would never have been able to do. Like, think about it. If it wasn't for being able to do cross promotion, well, then Impact fans would never been able to see Finjuice win the tag team titles. They'd never been able to see Kenny Omega. AEW fans wouldn't see the Good Brothers. And there never would have been that cool return of Matt Hardy to the Impact Zone, which was such a great day for us, for all the trials and tribulations that were in that relationship, and being able to have that feel-good moment on some levels, on a more of a behind-the-scenes level, having Matt return and be there to a place that he was such an important cog in building. You don't get those moments. So when you break down those barriers and you can do business between companies, it just makes sense. It makes sense on all levels. It can drive good business for the companies. It creates more buzz and excitement, and fans certainly love it. And whether it's us going out when, hey, we're going to go do some live events, and instead of going and doing a full Impact event, well, if we go do a show in Iowa and we do it with Pro Wrestling Revolver, and have four or five Impact matches, and 3, 4, or 5 Revolver matches, or we do that like in Toronto with Destiny or so many of other, or Wrestle Pro, in the East Coast, and all these different companies that we've been able to. So it's great, and it gives us an opportunity to scout talent on those more independent levels, and it gives them a chance to usually draw bigger houses and get more exposure for their guys. And then when you get to a higher level, the idea of New Japan and Impact and AEW and any other company out there going out and tearing down those walls and doing stuff, to me, it's putting that's just simple business. It's putting business first, and it's putting the fan enjoyment first, which is really, they're so tied together, right? Because what's best for the fans is going to excite them the most, is what's going to drive business. And the idea that people can't be competitors and yet be be respectful to each other and be able to find some ways to do business with each other. Just, it seems like such a simple concept that for years, a lot of people in the wrestling industry didn't seem to be able to grasp. You know, like the NFL has never looked and said, oh, shoot, like we got to make sure that the CFL fails or something like that, right? I mean, there's an ability to work together. And as I do it every day, with the Demore Group and everything else. I have competitors that I meet with, and sometimes we collaborate on projects, and sometimes it's just keeping in touch and getting an idea of what's going on and, general trends. And I think any time in business that you have open communication is great. And I think when you're talking about the entertainment business and like the wrestling business like this, like it's simple, right? Fans get excited about things that are new and different and that they didn't expect. So let's give that to them. I think it's a win-win for the promotions, and then it's a win for the fans. So it's really a win-win-win.
Yeah, it seems like it's been human nature for decades in this business to, put up walls and, sort of stake your territory. And so, it's so much fun to kind of tear down those walls as the verbiage goes, and be able to see, like you said, David Finlay and Juice Robinson, Finjuice. That was exciting for me, somebody who grew up watching David Finlay roll around on the ground when he was 2 years old. What a come together moment that was to be able to announce that. But it's been fun, and appreciate the fact that you have always been one of the people that say, it's time to tear down the walls, and I think it makes this business a lot more interesting and certainly better for sure. You mentioned that. Since you mentioned that, let me just ask you: have there been any challenges, and if so, what are they? And what are the upsides of working with AEW and Tony Khan? That has to be a complicated relationship. I know you probably can't get into details, but from an overall perspective, how's that been?
I mean, I think it's been good. And I think, look, Tony Khan is everything that people had told me was before we worked together. He's a decent, kind, caring human being, loves professional wrestling. You can just see him get energized by it, and it's been a fun experience. He's got a great group there, people around him. So it's been good. It's been fun. I think we've created some great moments. Like, sure, trying to work out the scheduling and everything else and all the minutia of the details sometimes can be trying, but that's why it didn't happen before. And that's why, it's happening now, is because there's people with AEW and with New Japan and with Impact and with others out there in the wrestling industry that are willing to, check the posturing and everything else at the door sometimes when it comes down to getting things done like brass tacks. Like, nobody else in wrestling history had a world champion versus world champion match where they agreed that there was going to be one world champion coming out of it. So we did that. And that takes moving a lot of parts. That takes a lot of give and take. That takes a lot of collaboration. But that's been done. And that's been done because that's what's good, we all feel, for the wrestling industry and for wrestling fans. So, look, anything that is worth doing is going to take effort. And has it been effort? Absolutely. But I think it's been well worth it. And I also think it's been something that has, from my point of view, has been really enjoyable because it's something so different on this level. To have three major companies right now all playing in the same sandbox is pretty cool and unprecedented on this national level for sure. Awesome, for sure.
Talking about that, it must be challenging going into, as exciting as it is going into Rebellion. One wrestler is going to have to navigate being the champion of both companies, and it has to be challenging, trying to figure out what happens if Rich wins and then what happens if Kenny wins. Just talk to me a little bit, without getting too into the behind the scenes, about the challenges of building up to this match, and even more so what happens after the match is over.
Yeah, I mean, look, when the match is over on this Sunday, April 25th, it's going to be a historic day, historic night. One guy's going to stand there. He's going to be the dual champion, or really, if you look at it right now, Kenny is the AEW world champion. He's also the AAA champion for Mexico. You've got Rich, who's the Impact world champion and the TNA world heavyweight champion. So really, one person's walking out of there with four belts. And it's going to be an interesting time. And it's, we talked a lot about New Japan and AEW and Impact, but really AAA as well. I mean, they've been an amazing partner for us, and they've been through this whole pandemic, as they've had, huge hurdles to overcome in Mexico. They've continued to be in touch and be supportive and work with us. I know they've also done the same with AEW. And look, coming out of there, one guy's going to have a busy schedule, but it's kind of like Tony Khan said in our press conference. It's not a 320 day a year schedule anymore. Is it going to be a hectic schedule? Yes, absolutely. You're going to have a world champion every Wednesday on Dynamite. You're going to have the same world champion every Thursday on Impact. And then there's going to be pay-per-views and other events that pop up here and there. So that person is going to have a busy schedule, but I think a very manageable schedule. And I think it'll be great for fans, and you'll get to see it. You'll get to see history here this Sunday. And then we'll maneuver through the next many months, I think the same way that we have been able to do it so far for these past many months, which is just by being open with our communication and trying to be reasonable, from company to company and work together.
You mentioned historic, and as if it's not historic enough, you guys stunned the wrestling world and stunned me by getting Mauro Ranallo to call the main event, and he also voiced over the preview show, which I heard a little bit on Twitter yesterday and got kind of chill bumps. Talk to me about that and how important it was to get him in to make this even more historic and more special.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think respectful to everybody else there. When you look at it, Mauro Ranallo is the greatest combat sports announcer of our generation. Because if you're talking about boxing, he's right there. If you're talking about MMA, he's right there. If you're talking about pro wrestling, he's right there. There is no other combat sports announcer that transcends those three genres like that. So to have him come in and do this, especially after he stopped calling wrestling, it's been a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. And, for him to come back for this Sunday, I think is huge. And I mean, like you talk about being a mark or what, you're a mark for this, David. I marked out listening to, Mauro was great and did those 5 ways to win for each Swan and Kenny Omega. And as I listened to that first one, I just got chills, and goosebumps, kind of like listening to Mauro, call Impact Wrestling action and break down and dissect something for an Impact Wrestling event. So I think it's huge. Mauro is a guy that I've known for over 2 decades. He's uber passionate. You know that he's going to come in super prepared, knowing every minute detail about everything around this. And to get him, honestly, it's one of those things when me and him first chatted, I didn't even think it was really much of a possibility, but as things kind of went, it was like, hey, he's excited about this. And an excited, passionate Mauro Ranallo is the absolute best, and there's no question that he will provide a world-class call to a historic event.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to all this. This is, you don't even know. And if I wasn't going to be there, knock on wood, I'd be just as looking forward to it. Looking forward to watching it on pay-per-view and watching the Go Home show Thursday on Access TV at 8:00 Eastern time. Talk to me about the Impact locker room. It's a very unique situation. I don't know. I've been in a lot of companies, and independent companies, major companies, pretty much everybody but WWE. I don't know that I've been around such a unique locker room. They genuinely care for each other. They genuinely root for each other. And so many of them are young and just don't even realize probably how talented they are. Is that something you strive for? Did that just kind of happen? Is that getting the right people? How does that work? And what does that do to help the momentum when it becomes when you start getting the momentum, like you mentioned at Slammiversary? How does that help? Because obviously we know with WCW, where it was every man for themselves, that didn't work, and we could see where that went, which was nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of a situation we were all put in because there was a lot of uncertainty certainly around Impact Wrestling coming out of 2017. So as we started to assemble as a group, with myself and Don and the team together here, and trying to find our feet, with Anthem Sports and coming out of the block, we really had to work hard because there was people saying that, we wouldn't be around in 6 months. And certainly wasn't my belief, certainly wasn't anyone here's belief, but it certainly was a prevailing opinion by a lot of people. And it was something that I think it was great because our talent, I think, rallied together and came together in this, and we're going to do this. And they also rallied around the fact that a lot of our talent started almost taking it personally that other talent wasn't getting the due that they deserved. So, I mean, I think, like you said, I think it's great that the roster supports each other, cheers each other on, roots for each other. I think it's a situation where a great group has came together. I think we have a great, not just group of wrestling talent, but of fun, passionate people that are looking to make their mark. I think that we have fostered an environment where people don't feel they have to cut somebody else's legs out to find their own. And I think we've created an environment which is one that really fosters creativity and great performances by giving some freedom. We feel that part of our role here, overseeing Impact Wrestling is to guide and to help the talent go find themselves if they haven't yet, or if they found themselves, help matching them and finding those abilities to support them so they can go out there and do some really cool creative stuff. So, I mean, I think that's something that we pride ourselves on. I think something that the talent has certainly noticed. You have an opportunity. You come in here, you do good, you're going to get an opportunity to move up the chain and succeed. And we're going to do our best to provide those tools. And you also have a locker room that if they see somebody coming up and starting to really get some momentum, the locker room's great because it's not looking and going, oh, well, and Dave, you mentioned situations in the past with other companies where you've seen it. Well, shoot, that guy's starting to get over. We really need to cut his legs out, and we don't have that. I mean, it's amazing. And
I mean, they're supportive of each other. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say they're legitimately excited for the success of others in the locker room, and that's not always been the case, and it pretty much has never been the case. So that's why I feel it's so refreshing. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things is I mean, I think that there's been so much as far as I've seen places where the women have been almost out on an island, and I love that in our locker room. It's one locker room. I don't feel like here's the knockouts. The women here's the men. They're integrated. They're helping each other. They're talking to each other, and I think that's one of the greatest things. I mean, I think it took us far too long to get to this point in some ways, but I think that it's a testament to women like Gail Kim and others that have put in so much work over the last so many years to really make sure that people give the respect to the female competitors and female wrestling that's deserved. And I think that, if you look at it, like I said, one of the things that I really love is that, the entire locker room, male and female, gets excited and charged about something that's going on, whether it's happening with the men or whether it's happening with the women. Everybody is excited and behind it.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's just organic. You can't. It's something special. And I don't know how you put that in a bottle, but if you guys can figure that out, it's going to be a lot of great moments and impact in the years to come for sure. Not to kiss your ass, which I do anyway. We joke about it on Twitter, but let's call a spade a spade. You find a ton of young talent, going back to Team Canada and people like that, Petey Williams and Bobby Roode and so much. Even going forward now to Ace Austin and and Chris Bay and I mean the list of that locker room of the talent that you found and brought on, Josh Alexander, Trey Miguel is and I don't want to leave anybody out, but is just incredible. What do you, if somebody wants to gain the eye of Scott D'Amore, is there something special or unique that you look for, or you just know it when you see it?
I mean, well, I appreciate it. I mean, one, I got to say, like, it's when you look at the group that we have together, it's amazing. You also have to look at the people that we have around with Jimmy Jacobs and D'Lo Brown and Gail Kim and until recently Madison Rain and lots of good, smart, experienced people that were out there and seeing talent. So it's a combination of all that and people coming and saying, hey, I saw this person. Hey, have you checked out this person? And, you know, it really is a team effort. I mean, I've been lucky over the years to help being part of, you know, launching or fostering, you know, bringing along, you know, developing some amazing talent. I think it boils down to look for, you know, you got to find people that have that raw skill set, you know, that athletic ability. And I've coached sports, you know, my entire life. I was coaching baseball while I was still in my teens. I always say, like in my senior year of high school, I was the captain and the starting fullback for the varsity team, but I was also coaching the JV team. Like, I would literally run from my practice to theirs. Yeah, and it was like, I mean, coaching has always been something I've been passionate about. And whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whatever it may be, whether it's wrestling, it's finding people that have a raw skill set, and then it's developing them. And it's the biomechanics, it's everything else. And one of the things that I believe strongly about, and it's not just in wrestling, is it's not trying to force everything into one box. Your batting stance may be totally different than my batting stance, but your batting stance may be perfect for you, and there's no reason why I should be trying to make you going in a stance and swing a bat the way I do. There's key mechanics that are the same, but there's so many nuances that are different. And I've seen coaches in wrestling and every other sport that they feel there's only one way to do something. And I don't think that's how you foster talent in any athletic endeavor. I think if you're a good coach, you see what their skill set is and you work to develop their skill set. Your hands may be faster than mine. I may have a little more pop in my bat. I may have better hips than you do. You know, different.
You have wonderful hips.
And there you go with the butt twisted. But you work with that, and I think we have a great group that tries to work together to foster talent here and to work with it and develop it. And we have some amazing young athletes. So, look for it: raw athletic ability, passion, and a great attitude. If you have those three, then a good coach should be able to help that talent develop. So, and whether that's Bobby Roode or Chris Sabin or Rhino, whoever it is, you know, give them the tools that they need to succeed, guide them along, and then at certain key moments, one of the most important things to do as a coach is get the hell out of their damn way. You know,
right.
The goal of every teacher, the dream of every coach is that their student becomes better than they were or they are. And that's always been my goal with every single person that I've worked with, you know, and having a remarkably unremarkable career. I set the bar low enough for them. But I mean, you know, you've seen it. You've seen coaches, you know, especially in the wrestling industry, where a lot of times you're also, you know, your contemporaries, where there's almost jealousy. Like I was excited to see Rhino go on and do the things he did in ECW, even though I was still working, you know, untelevised matches on the undercards there. Like I was excited. I mean, I was stoked when I found out that he was wrestling The Rock at the Joe Louis Arena. You know, I mean, and all those things, and whether it's him or Bobby or Petey or Sabin or Alex Shelley, and get behind them, support them, and then get the hell out of their way. And that's the same approach we have, you know, with a lot of the people on our roster, even though we're not necessarily their coaches. I mean, we are coaches, like Gail Kim, D'Lo Brown, Petey Williams, you know, myself, Tommy Dreamer. You know, we're all coaches. We're coaching these athletes how to go out there and do these events, and, you know, how their performance should be. So, you know, support them, help them, but also let them be themselves. And I think that's something that we've kind of excelled at here the last few years.
That is great insight, Scott. I really appreciate that. That's great. And it's sort of a life lesson. You could take anything in sports and make it into a life lesson for anything, which is something that I've always taught my kids and always tried to, use myself as I've grown old. Hey, on a lighter note, almost a year with the Good Brothers. I'm sure there's never a dull moment. I've been around a couple of times, when you were there, and it's always a fun time. What makes them unique? They're not just a wrestling brand; they're a brand. What makes them unique, and what is it about them that they've been so successful?
Well, I mean, they're always having fun, and it's hard to have a bad day at work with those two guys, because they're going to find a way to have fun. And if there's a situation where a lot of people are going to get miserable about it, they're going to end up finding a way to have some fun with it. And there's a perfect example recently at one of our shows, even where I think we had a little bit of, remember we used to call Kevin Nash the Big Grump.
Yeah.
Well, I walked up to Carl. So I'd seen Doc, and I walked up to Carl, and I was like, what kind of mood is he? He goes, oh, really bad. It was probably not the day. So I went over there and kind of felt him out, and Carl was probably right. But within 2 or 3 minutes of being over there, we're all laughing.
Sure.
Because in a situation where he, probably wasn't feeling the best, and he was in a miserable mood, and he was definitely heading towards Big Grump. Well, they just took an about turn and figured out, and they just leaned into, the problems of the day, and we're laughing about it within a few minutes. They make for a fun locker room, and that's in general, our locker room has been a place where people have been able to have fun and enjoy themselves for a while. And the great thing I think about all those additions, at Slammiversary last year, and you saw, Deanna was a little ahead of the curve coming in a little earlier, but she's part of that class, and then the Good Brothers and Myers and now Cardona, and maybe one of these days, if he's ever off the injured reserve, Heath. All of these people came in. They didn't come in with that crappy, I've been other places attitude. They came in and they leaned into being part of the locker room. There's nobody's with the private locker rooms. There's nobody coming and saying, hey, my match has to be second so I can get out of here. They sit in the same locker room as everybody else. You're gonna see, Trey Miguel and Josh Alexander and Fala Ba and Doc Gallows and Brian Myers. They're all going to be interacting with each other, and TJP and Chris. And they've been great additions because they brought so much experience, and so much talent there, and they haven't flaunted that talent. They're part of their thing is they want to use their experience, their notoriety, and their talents, not just for their own benefit, which they're certainly very interested in, and they should be, but also for the betterment of others. And they want to help others in that locker room get better and succeed. So, I mean, I think that's, they're fun, charismatic, entertaining guys, and their personalities do it, and the fact that they're hustlers. I get calls sometimes or messages sometimes at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And it's not like, sometimes it's silly stuff, but sometimes it's like, hey, like we're looking at doing this. Can we get on the horn and, in the morning and walk through this, and that's part of it. They're always on the hustle. They want to succeed. They want to make money, but they want to earn it. They're not asking for anybody to give it to them. They want to earn it. And that's a lesson Terry Taylor taught me years ago when I was looking for a raise. He said, don't go in there and tell them you need more money. Nobody gives a damn what you need. He goes, you need to go in there and explain to them why you can be worth more and earn more, so they'll be happy to give you more because they're getting more. And that's those guys' approach from everything I've seen. And I've known Carl since he was just cutting his teeth in Ohio under Roger Ruffin. And, I was actually Doc Gallows' agent for a couple of years. They're good, talented, hardworking people, and they surround themselves with good people. And that whole crew that came in Slammiversary last year have been great additions, and I think they've blended perfectly into our locker room.
Let me ask you this. Don Callis is an interesting guy. I had him on my podcast, as you know, a couple of months ago, and he talks a lot about the ants and the all kinds of interesting things, I guess. He's a different kind of cat. How do you guys work together? Do you ever kind of, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you ever kind of like roll your eyes, or have you guys found some chemistry between each other?
Well, I think both. I think there's chemistry, as far as there's a friendship in the sense that goes back at this point, like our friendship goes back, it's got to be, 25 years.
Yeah, I forget that. People forget that.
Yeah. It's funny because he's one of those guys because of the geography of everything. I felt like I knew Don before we ever met face to face for the first time. So I think we met face to face for the first time in probably 96 or 97, but we've been talking on the phone and trying to coordinate things and working on things that didn't work out before we ever really got a chance to work together. So I already knew him, and we had all the same friends, like Edge and Christian and, that whole clique and everything else, and Joey Legend, so many of the same people that we knew that there was always a back and forth. So we've known each other. We traveled together, might not have been his first territory, but my first territory was Grand Prix Wrestling in Eastern Canada.
I know.
And that when we traveled together, it was Edge, Christian, myself, Glenn Kolka, Don was there, Martel was there, Bad News. We traveled together. We're there every night together. I mean, we've been many other places over the course of 25 years together, worked together, stayed friends. When Don got out of the wrestling business, he'll say that there's really, the people that he still talked to were Jericho, Lance Storm, Lenny, like Dr. Luther, and
right.
myself. Those are the four people that he had any relationship really in wrestling when he got out. And the same, when I got away from wrestling for a handful of years, he's still somebody that I talk to on a regular basis. So we've known each other for years. Look, we've MF'd each other as many times as people can, and we'll probably still do it again, but we've MF'd each other. There's times that I know that he walks away from a conversation with me, just dog cussing me under his breath. He knows that I do the same thing. So the great thing is, usually we don't do it under our breath. We just do it in each other's face and get out of the way. But I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, that all just goes away, right? That's just emotion. And
right.
then you get back to working together and doing business. And we do our best to separate friendship and business. It always bleeds over, of course, but there's, my respect and admiration for him as a friend is different from my respect and admiration for him as a coworker. And I can be pissed off at Don Callis, the coworker, and he's still my friend. And I can be pissed off at my friend some days, and I can still work with him. And I think it's vice versa with him. And the other thing is, if somebody else stepped up and, ever wanted to do anything with Don, I'll call him an MFer and say I want to cave his head in. But if anybody else does that, I'm going to be the first one to grab a baseball bat and swing it at them because, damn it, they're not doing that to Don.
Right.
So it works because, we try to separate and compartmentalize some of the stuff, and because we're both logical. If you talk to somebody for tens of hours a week, there's going to be times that you're sick of each other.
Right.
And that's one of the problems of working that closely together is you're going to get sick of each other at times.
Well, whatever you're doing, knock on wood.
You just maneuver it, yeah.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, knock on wood, is working, and the dressing room is great. And as we roll into Rebellion this Saturday, I just can't help and this actually just came into my head about 5 minutes ago when you were talking. I can't help but think that Bob Ryder, God bless him, will be smiling down and really rooting for the company on Sunday night. Kind of bittersweet that he's not here to see it, but there's anything that you want to. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if there's anything you want to say about Bob, it's still something that's hard for me. And you'd think that you go on with life, but there's just sometimes I think of him like just now and start getting a little bit emotional that he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bob is such an important figure in the history of Impact Wrestling and beyond that, just in wrestling in general. Because you didn't have to be part of TNA Wrestling or Impact Wrestling for Bob to be there to help you. He loved wrestling. Wrestling was his life. You know, he was living his dream job any day that he was around professional wrestling, and he helped so many people. You know, look, I had dinner with Bob a few weeks before he passed away. He still had that passion. You know, this is a guy, Dave, as you know, he wasn't supposed to be here. They wrote him off years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and I truly believe that, you know, his passion for Impact Wrestling and wrestling in general is what kept him going for years after his body should have gave up. You know, I just, you know, we were filming some stuff for Access in Nashville recently, and we looked up this restaurant. Anderson actually found it, and we go down there, we Uber down there to it, and we get there, and I look across the street. And as you know, Bob loves the like the Benihana style restaurant, right, where they do the cooking right in front of you.
Teppanyaki.
Right across the street from, yes, thank you. Right across the street is a place that Bob took me every Monday night for a year plus, because I was making just enough money to pay my hotel and hopefully get by and maybe pay a phone bill or something. And like he did for so many others for like almost a year straight. You know, he would take me there. We'd have a great meal. We'd spend a couple hours talking wrestling, and he did that for so many people. He looked out for you. You never had to worry about a place to lay your head. Never had to worry about having your belly full. You know, with good food. Bob was going to take care of you if you were a wrestler, you know, or a friend of the wrestling business. So it sucks that he's gone. Obviously, that's part of life. I lean into the fact that we got him for a lot of years, that we probably weren't supposed to have him. And I just think about the fact that he's looking down. I know one thing, Bob felt very strongly that he wanted Impact Wrestling to succeed and thrive and to be here today, tomorrow, and in his mind, you know, hopefully for eternity, because that's his baby. And we do that work every single day. And, you know, there's moments like this that are emotional. There's other ones that are just fun Bob stories. And he's always, for as long as Impact Wrestling's around, there's always going to be, you know, the just a sprinkling of that spirit of Bob Ryder. There's going to be somewhere at the show every single day that's telling a Bob Ryder story.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And like I said, I believe he will have a huge smile on his face this coming Sunday night, as it's title versus title. Wrestling history is going to be made, and the landscape's certainly going to change one way or another. Either Kenny Omega is going to be the Impact World Champion, or Rich Swann is going to be the AEW Heavyweight Champion. And one last question: as the Impact Executive Vice President, do you find yourself rooting for Rich Swann, or do you have to stay impartial because you know you'll have to be working with whoever wins?
Look, I mean, Rich Swann is a ball of energy. You've seen it. I always say you can't be around Rich Swann and not be in a good mood. It's just not possible.
Awesome.
Do I want Rich Swann to win? Absolutely. I hope he does. You know, if Kenny wins, you know, I've crossed paths with Kenny over many years. There's no question he's a world-class competitor. He's also a guy who has dedicated his life to wrestling and is a great representative of any wrestling company or just the business in general. You know, so I'd say the tipping point is, I'd love to stick it in Don's face for how strong he goes in and backing Kenny. You know, and basically say ha-ha for all of his BS about how much he loves Rich. It's clear that he's a Kenny Omega guy, and good for him. And either way, we got a great world champion. But yeah, I'd love to stick it in Don's face at the end of the night. So we'll find out.
Can't wait for this Sunday live on pay-per-view. And Scott, thank you so much for your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few days. And let's do this thing and set the world on fire. It's been one of the funnest years of my life, in a crazy, ridiculous year that nobody's had fun, to be able to have this opportunity to be a small little part of this train that keeps going uphill. The little train that could. What do they say? The little train that could. And it's an honor to be a part of it. So thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being honest, and great stuff. And we'll see you soon, and look forward to this Sunday, Rebellion. History will be made, and I can't wait.
Looking forward to it. See you in the Music City.
Great stuff. Want to thank my good friend Scott for coming out, letting me kiss his ass a little bit. It's always fun. I didn't know he's Don, by the way. I think in a fun way, not in a serious way. But really looking forward to this Sunday night. I'm going to have the honor, knock on wood, because I'm not there yet, of being there in person and calling, introducing the action and listening to Mauro Ranallo call the match that's going to change the wrestling landscape, where somebody wins everything. And like I said in the opening of the show, the next event will be Dynamite on TNT, and somebody's going to be there with either the Impact champion, or the Impact champion is going to be there with the AEW championship. So I guess they got two planes ready to roll, and we'll have to see who gets on the plane and who stays behind. But I'm excited about it. You could find it on pay-per-view. Also, by the way, a special thing that Impact does, it's called Celebration. That morning, a 2-hour virtual event that starts at 11 a.m. and you get to interact virtually with all the stars of Impact Wrestling, and everybody pretty much drops by. Plus, if you participate in it, you get a whole bunch of great swag and unique collectible items. So if you think you might be interested in that, spend a couple hours virtually from your living room couch with the Impact Wrestling roster and get some cool swag. Be sure to go to impactwrestling.com and you can find out how to sign up. So we will talk next week to Mark Marrow, Johnny B. Bad, my old friend, and interesting journey he has had, and look forward to having that conversation. And we'll also talk about Rebellion. Who's going to win? We'll talk about it next week. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'm David Penzer, still sitting ringside.
Follow David Penzer on Twitter @David Penzer. Also, make sure to follow the show on Twitter @Penzer Ringside. You've been sitting ringside with David Penzer on Radio Influence.
I'm Jerry P. Tuck, CEO of Radio Influence. I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you for downloading and subscribing to this podcast. There are a lot of people behind the scenes here at Radio Influence that work hard to keep you entertained day in and day out. If you'd like to get involved and advertise on this program, or you have some show ideas that you'd like to see us add to the Radio Influence family, please email us at contact@radioinfluence.com. We all have crazy schedules, so the fact that you took time out of your busy day to let us entertain you for a while means a lot. Without you, the listeners, we wouldn't exist, so thank you again for downloading and subscribing to this show. Don't forget to check out radioinfluence.com to see what other shows we also have to offer. All of Radio Influence's programming can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, and of course, radioinfluence.com.